No blue cards yet, huh? No blue cards. Go ahead. All right. Good evening. Good evening and welcome to Elk Grove Unified School District's special board meeting. Instead of using the Zoom platform, we will be using the Cosumnes Community Service District CCSD streaming service. You can access the live stream link from the district's website or directly through CCSD's website. Today's meeting is being video recorded and will be available on the district's YouTube channel. The public comment process has shifted to in-person while utilizing the temporary live stream platform. We encourage you to attend the meetings and share your feedback with the board. Your active participation is valued and contributes to the decision-making process. Public comment information. During special board meetings, public comment may be made for items listed on the agenda in person in the boardroom. Individuals with comments on general school district issues may address those at a regularly scheduled board meeting. Requests to make public comment will be accepted for an item up until the board president introduces the item. Generally, members of the public will be given 3 minutes to address the board. If there are 15 or more comments on a specific item, the board will reduce individual comment time to 2 minutes each. If there are 30 or more comments on a specific item, the board will reduce individual comments to 1 minute each. Individuals may not defer their time to another individual speaker to increase their total speaking time. Please be mindful that district students may be watching. You are encouraged to address the board and the public in a respectful manner, such that all those observing, from children to adults, are made to feel welcome, safe, and valued. The board shall not permit any disturbance or willful interruption of board meetings. Persistent disruption by an individual or group shall be grounds for the board president to provide a warning and then to terminate the individual's privilege of addressing the board. And I will read the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the Elk Grove Unified School District administrative facilities and schools occupy the unceded territory of the Miwok, the original people of the skies, land, and waters, where we work and learn. The Miwok have cared for these lands since time immemorial. They continue to teach their traditional knowledge that comes from and responds to the needs of the land and people who share it. May our daily lives and work, teaching, learning, leadership, and community engagement support the evolving vision of the Miwok for their community and these lands. May we strive to acknowledge the past for the betterment of the future generations. May we look to our tribal partners, the Wilton Rancheria, the descendants of the original people of this land, to assist with the successful education of our community. Mr. Hoffman, would you like to lead the Pledge of Allegiance? And now please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Okay. Dr. Coates, we will talk about the facilities master plan.
All right. Well, good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos, staff, and the public. We are excited that everyone is here tonight to talk through our facilities master plan. We were here last week, and it is such a comprehensive document that will guide the next 10 years. It's great that everyone will get an opportunity to weigh in. It is a hefty document, 540 some pages in all. And so we won't go through all of that. This is a very high level of what the sections are, what it contains, and the document itself will be available on the website once board approved. And then as a reminder, we have digitized a website so you can peruse all of the schools or just schools or the area that you are most interested in. So the objective tonight is to approve the updated 10-year facilities master plan. We have a team that has been working on this for nearly a year, from hiring an architect firm to help us through this process and complete our facility condition assessment, to the entire facilities team managing this. So this really becomes the culminating night. We have 11 chapters, sections. Here they all are here. We have a preface, an executive summary. If you're going to start somewhere and don't want to read all of the pages, the executive summary is really a meaty description of all of the major components, from the instructional framework that really helps shape our schools, to funding and capital resources that we do to actually implement and execute projects. We ground everything in our mission and vision, our ed program. We talk through enrollment and capacity, our engagement events that were thoughtful and ongoing, facility conditions, implementation cost, and then acknowledgments, of course. So this is the comprehensive. We'll go through most of these sections. So as I mentioned before, the executive summary starts off with a note from our superintendent, but it really expresses the goals and the purpose of the facility master plan, which is a compilation of projects that will help guide the facilities team for the next 10 years. It is quite a comprehensive document, and we've been through many of the steps that you can see on the bar below, from the kickoff to the assessments, where we're triangulating all of the data from input to examining the facilities, and getting program input as well. So then we have the master planning, and here we are tonight to review and consider the adoption of that. So we have the mission and vision. We ground the facility master plan in our learning vision goals. We really need our facilities to meet the needs of our staff and our teachers on the site, especially as education needs and learning needs are changing. And so this became the grounding for us. It expresses our outcomes for students and our commitments in how we operate as an organization. The mission and vision encompasses all of these areas with narrative. So really explaining. Much of this work was completed through a comprehensive education specification process that was board approved back in 2019. And as the team looked at this plan and built upon the last master plan, we were looking at the education adequacy based on the education specifications, knowing they're aspirational, we're not there yet with all of our facilities, and looking at the gap. And so this really becomes the guide for the recommendations set forth in the updated master plan. The educational program, we really highlighted in part because of initiatives that are driven by the Board of Trustees, but also the feedback that we consistently got from site surveys and community input. So we have a more focused description in the areas of special education, transitional kindergarten and kindergarten, so early learning, safety and security, educational technology, overcrowding, and school support facilities becomes more comprehensive as we look at the start of the facility master plan. And the white box is the highlights of what the key trends that came from all of the input that we received, from site surveys, from the administration and the staff, to our in-person forums, to the district survey that was out. Restrooms came out resoundingly as the #1 issue, both student restrooms and staff restrooms, so it was really everywhere. Parking lot and drop-off pickup areas, accessible playgrounds, visual and performing arts facilities. Technology was also highly desired as we went through and sought input from all of our various partners. We have an entire section that is dedicated to enrollment and capacity, and when we look at the overall growth of the district, enrollment is flat, but we do have 2 areas, as you can see here, that are hot spots, as we call them. The growth is off the charts, and in a previous update on facilities back in March, we talked specifically about the needs both in the Rancho Cordova region, but then also South Elk Grove. We think within the 10 years of this master plan, we'll have 2 additional elementary schools in the Rancho Cordova area, along with a middle high school, which the site's been identified, the architect brought on, that all being with planning starting in 25-26 school year, construction starting soon, and potentially students in class in 29-30. So we have a lot going on in Rancho. That's assuming all of the growth that has been happening now continues on. And so it's our best guess based on what we know from residential areas. We also have South Elk Grove, where we are anticipating schools in that Miwok region, and we have 3 elementary sites also identified in South Elk Grove. So in the duration of the 10 years, we really are anticipating 4 elementaries and a middle high school. Here's where you can kind of see the projections over time, where it is overall flat. The yellow bar is the current enrollment, and it's broken out by elementary, middle, and high school. And then you have the middle bar, which is the 5-year projection, and you can see some of that growth, and then the 10-year projection. So when we look at the elementary schools and we're noticing that growth, we know that those students, when they start with us, matriculate through the system, and we need to be planning now, knowing it is a long-term process. As mentioned earlier, we have an entire section that's dedicated to engagement and input. We, of course, surveyed all of the sites, both the administration and the staff. We had the team of highly skilled and trained engineers and consultants examining the facility from ceiling tiles to rooftops to HVAC. To really get all of the nuts and bolts that go into a school. And we held 5 community forums that allowed families and interested community partners to come in and weigh in, as well as a survey that went out. There were key trends in each of the areas. We regionalized the in-person meetings largely to allow people to attend something close in proximity, but it wasn't exclusive to that region as well. And so we see athletic facilities, equities, stadiums, overcrowding as really common themes that came up from those that wanted to come out and share their needs and concerns and desires. We also solicited feedback from students, and so those were a little bit different. We asked, hey, what's working for you now, so we can build on those, and what isn't. And so you can see there's been a lot of work with Measure M and the facilities on career technical education facilities and programs, and those seem to be working really well. What isn't? Parking lots, which is consistent kind of across the board. Practice facilities, classrooms, bathrooms, and locker room updates. And then as we all have our wish list, the students do as well, with a pool, new theaters, and things of that nature being in the top order. So we won't go into the examples of the master plans. Over the course of the last year, we've shown kind of sample pictures of what each of the site will look like, but this is the methodology. We take all of the input from the community, we send the team out, and then we start to triangulate that data. We look at special considerations, largely coming from our education specifications or certain priorities that we know that we want to tackle sooner or later. And then in each of the pages, we identify just the first 2 priorities. We have 3 priorities that we discuss in the comprehensive master plan, but we've only estimated costs for the first 2 priorities, being that they tend to be around safety, code, making sure that students are warm, safe, and dry in a priority 1, kind of the must-dos. And then the priority 2s become projects that are really aligned with program efficiency need as things adapt and change. And then program priorities 3 become the wish list, the things that we might not be able to do currently right now, but if funding allows and affords ourselves, then we would start moving into priority 3. So when you start to look at the pages in the comprehensive master plan, we did organize it by region, by high school region, starting with the high school and then all of the feeder schools. And so that's what you see when you look at the entire document by Alpha. So we get to costs, and this is difficult to read just because of the size. So we'll walk through what is the cost of all of the, from the input and of the total master plan over the next 10 years. When we look, I'm just gonna go to the big number at the bottom, so to the far right and down, for priorities 1 and 2, for all of the high school region, the district support buildings, we're looking at just under $2 billion, a $1.9 billion, excuse me, total for those next 10 years. Now, that can seem like a daunting number, especially knowing that it's not completely comprehensive of maybe priority 3 needs, or when we think about the new construction that we have, it doesn't incorporate all of those costs, like site acquisition and some sort of abatement if there's other work that we have to do to get the facility ready for a build. What I will say about each of these costs, or the cost of a master plan in a district our size, is the team has a strong history of leveraging multiple funding sources to get this done. And so Measure M became a model for that, where the team, through the general obligation bond, had $546 million, really turned it into about $750 million of facility work through leveraging things like Proposition 39, developer fees, our CFD, and just being really smart with the state finance program. So, so not to get too overwhelmed by that number, it is a big number, but we have a strong team in place that upon approval of this plan, that we would kick into action and start working through the priorities. With that, I will open it up for any questions.
Mr. Vargas, do we have any blue cards on this item?
Yes, we have 2 blue cards on this item. So I will, for those who are speaking in public comment, I'll call out your name. If I mess up your name in any way, feel free to correct me when you get up. First up is Michelle Poling. Your question is answered. Perfect. And second is Nizreen Asaf.
Hi, I hope everybody's good. Great. I was a part, let me give you a little bit of background. My children attend Miwok Village Elementary School. There were discussions that I wanted to bring up regarding borders and boundaries, but that's a different meeting. So specifically for this meeting, I know that I have actually seen her a couple times, both at the kickoff and as a PTA. We made sure to send out the links to the parents for Miwok. And so I'm going to isolate my questions or requests. You just stated regarding the children being warm, dry, and safe. Miwok is one of the newest schools, if not the newest school, from my understanding. And so in the plan, it said that they're not going to get any updates until, I believe, 2047 or something like that. It was 2045 or 2047. But I'm here, and I don't know if this is the right avenue to even request this, but Miwok has no shading. The older schools have mature trees, positions between their buildings and brick and mortar. that provide outdoor shading for the kids. And so, not to say, hey, they have it, we don't, we are a newer school, but our trees are not mature, and there needs to be some type of shading between these modulars. And I know that's not I think that's more of a need than it needs to be a want. Essentially, my concern is my child, for example, my daughter, when they're playing in this 100+ degree weather, she comes home, and if you look, I'm not really the fairest of skin. I have brown skin. She shouldn't be burning, and her nose is burning when she's playing outside at Miwok. As a PTA vice president last year, I actually attempted to schedule a meeting with USA Shade. The gentleman, Elias, had worked with other elementary schools in Elk Grove School District and had provided shading or canopies for the playgrounds and for where they wait in line for drop-off and pickup. And unfortunately, the cost is way out of the PTA's budget. And we, as much as we want to do something without having to go through the red tape of Elk Grove School District, we need that. And I say that with the utmost parental hopes, not only for my kids, but as all of the students at Miwok would need this. There really is no, and I don't know if it's the positioning of the schools. I'm not, geographically like saying, hey, the sun rises here, and that's why they get it. But ultimately, I mean, the canopies that either stretch between the modulars or, some type of canopy for the students while they're waiting in line for pickup, above the playgrounds. The playgrounds get so scorching hot. I don't know if anybody's ever sat in a stadium seat. That's kind of what we're putting our kids on when they want to do a slide. So, I didn't know I was timed. So I won't be too long. I hope that addresses some of the issue. My concern with the safety part, it's not really a want. PTA would be willing to partner, but hopefully we can get something. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is all the blue cards we have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I know that some of our board members were absent, so I want to give folks an opportunity to ask questions of Ms. Coates. So I'll start with Mr. Yang.
Okay. Yeah, sorry I wasn't here at the last meeting. Was this also presented last? Okay. And everybody else that had an opportunity to give feedback? Okay. Yeah, I have personally spoken with Chris, a few times, and we took a drive on some of the sites, school site, I should say, in the Valley High. And I think that, I'm going to generalize it, as an overall for the Elk Grove Unified School District. I think that, for the most part, I think our schools are very welcoming and very well designed. I think for the older school, it could maybe be more of a renovation that be more welcoming as far as entrance goes and so forth. But I think what I have seen here is very on point, and it's keeping pace with this day of age as far as the needs, and I'm happy to see what I see here. So that's my feedback.
Ms. Albiani? Mr. Vargas?
Just some brief comments. I appreciate the attention to the sites that I had identified. We'd had some folks come to us with some questions and some concerns, and I appreciate that all of that showed up in the master plan. Then just a reminder is, doesn't seem like we're going to get all the money we need, which is never the case. But as we're going through and prioritizing, just a reminder to be thoughtful about where we've put money already and where the greatest need is. I know that in just thinking about the Elk Grove High School area, both Elk Grove High School and Kerr have had a lot of attention. I think some of the elementary schools may be in need of attention. And so as we're thinking and prioritizing, just keep that in mind. And then just because it was brought up and we have an opportunity to ask questions. So as I recall, we've made a priority of putting in shade structures at all of our schools. Have we completed that process?
I think we have. Yes, we have.
Okay. So as we go forward, recognizing that shade structures are, one small place on campus, to the extent that we can, accommodate, I think that is right. 100-degree weather, which seems to be all the more common these days, is not exactly a safe place for our kids to be in. So as we're going forward, just keep that in mind and, for the future. And that is all my questions and comments.
Ms. Chávez Espinosa?
I won't add anything to the comments I gave last time. Thank you.
Mr. Fortuna?
Yeah, I have a few. First of all, not to embarrass her, but I did want to preface my comments by saying that with respect to Trustee Area 7, it's the only one I can speak to in terms because of having firsthand knowledge. There is a deep appreciation for the responsiveness that's been shown by Dr. Coates and her honesty, and people are appreciative of that. First question, and I apologize, I probably should have asked it last meeting. With the recommendations that are being made, we would be adopting the current language with respect to stadiums, correct? Which is 1 for 2.
We would use what's currently in our ed specifications from those board approved in 2019, yes.
Okay, and I know that stadiums was one of the issues that came up in a number of the discussions, and yet we didn't have any discussions, and I don't know if my colleagues are interested in doing that, but certainly it is an item. Now, I was pleased last meeting when Chris indicated that the Rancho Cordova Middle School, High School site would not be affected by the current language, so that I read that as the green light was there for both stadium and Performing Arts Center.
And make sure we're clear. I said there's nothing in those in our current ed specifications that would not allow that to happen. And the other piece is a distance. I think would certainly be something we haven't designed the whole school yet, so I'll make sure I don't get held to absolutely and forever. But it would make sense at the site for that distance. Stadium for sure. PAC. We haven't had that conversation directly.
Why would we change it then?
It's not a change. We're saying there's nothing in the current language that would prohibit us doing a stadium there.
We had a policy, we're going two schools per stadium.
Well, we could share what could happen is there's going to be 3 schools, high school, middle schools in the Rancho Cordova area at some point. So, Bill, when you build the first one in that area, would probably make sense to do a stadium at the first one. The second one might not have a stadium because they would end up sharing a stadium. So it fits into the existing plan.
Okay. With respect to the implementation plan, Kristen, both the Grant Line elementary site and the middle school, high school site are both listed. Mm-hmm. And it has been mentioned that with the elementary school site, we're approximately 2 years down the road to do that, and 5 years down the road to do the middle school, high school. And one of those two is predicated on the passage of the bond that we will discuss later on. My question is, Given that there are extenuating circumstances, example, the bond doesn't pass, that would put us in a tough position in terms of moving forward. Is there any reason why we couldn't put language in that specifies our intent with the extenuating circumstances language?
In the master plan? In language where, as a clarifying question?
Yes.
What we would need to do, if we were to do that, is bring this back forward, because it's currently not in that plan. I think, as I would think through it, overcrowding is a section that is spelled out with appendices that really detail the growth across all of the district, even in the infill projects, but certainly in the area, the Rancho Cordova area. And so it may be captured. We do know that if growth continues at the rate it's going, that we will need 3 new elementary schools and a new middle high school in that area within the next 10 years. And so...
And a balance of that is there's other sources to be able to do the building of new schools. So the idea of the matching funds from the state with regards to new construction. So in Measure M, we used some dollars, relatively few dollars, to do new school construction. We did it to add some pieces that aren't included in what the state thinks is a school, but that we think should be included in a school. In this bond, that's kind of the next conversations. That's really where we're really kind of at. But we're being very clear that part of the work of, if we put another bond on the ballot, is that new school construction would be probably a more significant portion of that than we used in Measure M, recognizing we're going to build more schools in this next 10-year period. But there's multiple funding sources for new school construction that we'll be able to use. But again, that's crossing bond conversation with facility master plan conversation.
If I could just weigh in on that, if I understood your question, is the what if, right? If there's no local bond. There are multiple funding sources, but the state resources are conditioned on the passage of a local bond. So we don't access state matching funds if we don't pass a local bond. And the development impact fees, which I'm sure we have in these fast-growing regions, are not designed to be sufficient to cover 100% of the project cost. They cover a portion of it. So,
Thank you, Nancy. I understand that. And Chris, I understand everything you said. But that's not what my question was. My question is, and its purpose is to alleviate the fears of the people in the Rancho Cordova area. That's the purpose. Can we write an intent statement, either included within the master plan or, I suppose, separate from the master plan, that addresses our intent, takes care of the trust issue, with possible extenuating circumstances that would prevent that, which takes care of the protection piece of it?
I mean, we've shared that the intent is to build those schools. As we stand here today with what we know about growth, those schools are going to be needed. So we've presented that to the board. We presented that publicly, and that is the existing timeline as we sit here today.
Well, yes or no?
But the idea of doing, and I'd have to check the idea of doing something more written as far as intent. That is the intent, but until the growth continues, until all those things come into place. To write, we're going to do it unless this happens, I don't think it's appropriate in the facility master plan. But we could check with our legal team and see if there's a way to do something along those lines. I've never seen anything done along those lines, so I'd have to dig in. You brought this up kind of today, so it's hard to answer the question completely accurately.
How would you, there's two representatives of the coalition here tonight. How can we address the issue of trust without anything other than one's word?
Well, it's more than word. I mean, it's documented that this is our intent, and we brought that to the board, and the board didn't push back and say we don't think that's an accurate timeline. So that is the plan as we sit here today. And in order to make that plan happen, we have an architect already hired. If things continue, we're going to do the planning in 25, 26 and have to send that information off the DSA. So there's going to be some concrete actions that the board's going to take well ahead of the school opening for the 29-30 school year. And if one of those things doesn't happen, then or got delayed because so again, a pandemic came in and shut down everything. Something completely unforeseeable happened again, and we didn't bring that next step to the board. Then that would be an indicator that we were falling behind the schedule. But as we sit here today, we're on schedule for the schools that we listed in the presentation today. We're on schedule for those to happen. The next one will be the elementary school in Rancho Cordova. That school opening is a really key indicator that we're still headed in the right direction. That school filling with enrollment is another really good indicator that we need to move forward with the next step. So there's multi-steps in this piece, and each time the board takes an action on that next step, that's going to confirm for the community that we're headed in that direction.
Ms. Albiani, and then Ms. Chavez Espinosa, and then back to you, Mr. Fortuna.
I think the first thing we've done is we've hired an architect. So no one's not listening and no one's not making progress. We've hired an architect that's planning the school. The second thing we've done is we put it in a facility master plan. And for it to happen, it has to get in a facility master plan. So I think we've made two steps that show very goodwill. I think Dr. Coates has met with the group numerous times and is open to the discussions with them and has been very forthright and honest. And I think there is a map there. And so I think we are showing goodwill.
If the request is to create sort of a higher level of commitment, a special promise to residents in one part of the district, I just respectfully don't find that appropriate. I certainly want to deliver everything that the folks in Area 7 need and deserve, and I completely understand your desire to want to give them peace of mind. But, just about every classroom at Miwok Village Elementary is also at capacity. And, those folks are just as desperate for new construction. And the folks that Mr. Vargas and Mr. Yang referred to and the modernization needs in that part of the district, those students and families are just as deserving. So I don't find it appropriate to create sort of a higher level of promise for folks in one part of the district versus another.
I'd like to just a point of information regarding our talk last meeting.
Tony, you don't have a mic.
Last meeting, I was brainstorming to change that policy from two schools for one stadium, Why don't we, till now on, change it for every new high school, we have a stadium? That's very easy.
It's a different topic, and those are our ed specifications.
It's a solution to me. I mean, I'm not sure would it be a solution to my fellow board members and to Mr. Carmen's geographical trustee Area 1.
Mr. Perez, the ed specifications aren't on the table for discussion or amendment. If the board wants to relook at ed specifications, we could bring that back as a consideration, but that's not part of this conversation.
Are you talking ed specifications of the state of California or Elk Grove Unified School?
Elk Grove Unified, approved by the board.
Well, we're talking about what affects the master plan. If this speculation that we're talking about right now is hindering development of a high school within his area, why can't we talk about that?
It's not hindering that.
Apparently, okay, I'm not going to dwell on this one, but as you said earlier in this report, you didn't mention in those high-need areas, in trustee Area 1, that there's going to be a high school within this time frame.
We're not going to build any.
You only mentioned, I think, 3 elementaries, 1 middle school, and then the other one you didn't. You mentioned elementaries, 1 middle school, no high schools within this time period. So why are we talking about this?
It's a middle high school.
Okay.
In the Rancho Cordova area. So three elementary schools, likely.
We're talking about, okay.
And then 1 middle school, high school. That's the plan as it lays out right now.
Oh, are you saying, okay, now it's different then.
No, it's not.
So are you saying it's a middle school, high school is going to be?
Right, which is how we build them, because we build the middle school, high schools together.
Well, that's clarification to me. When you said middle school, you meant middle school, high school, correct? Okay, because I understood that you just said middle school.
Okay.
Apologies
Okay.
for that.
Mr. Perez, I just want to confirm, because I think I want to give you an opportunity to ask questions, but I want to make sure that we close the circle on Mr. Fortina's question, because I think you're taking it to a different direction, which is fine, but let me just
I have
close
one more
this.
issue.
Yeah. After Mr. Fortina.
Regarding Fortina's geographical area that I want to mention, because when I read this report, the 500-pager on enrollment and capacity, you stated in this report, 5.2, according to conservative growth models, assuming lower rates of housing development, overall attendance from 23-24 to 29-2030 is projected to grow from 62,188 to more than 65,000 in 2028, before declining back to approximately 62 in 2033. So I'm wondering, you say 2023, 33. So what's going to happen to those schools if those high school students graduate out?
Well, there'll be the elementary kids to feed, the younger kids will feed through it.
But they will be less than what? Your projections.
And you're talking about, this is one of the challenges we have in Elk Grove Unified, Mr. Perez.
Exactly.
Sorry, Mr. Perez. This is one of the challenges we have, is we have some parts of the district with explosive growth.
Right.
But we have other significant parts of the district that are actually declining. So when you see those overall numbers, we're still going to have large numbers of kids in those areas that we're speaking of in the Rancho Cordova area. Those neighborhoods are going to continue to grow. But we have a little bit of a challenge in that in many parts of our district, we actually have decline, like the rest of California, neighborhoods age out and kids go through the system. So that one of the things we'll have to pay attention to as we work through all of this is building. We have the challenge of having to build new schools in some places where we're having explosive growth, but there may be boundary changes and some other things that we have to do to, like other districts are dealing with. So we may be in the situation of having to do not closing schools like you see a lot of school districts doing. We won't be in that, in that business, but we may very well be in the business of, based on declining enrollment in parts of the district, rearranging some boundaries to maximize school settings. The other thing that we have in Elk Grove Unified is our year-round schools. So we have more capacity within our schools because we use the year-round calendar with many of our elementary schools. So one of the other options we could do is we could move some schools back to a traditional calendar if their attendance area used to be larger and required the year-round school or schedule. We could rotate back to a traditional schedule, which would allow all the kids to attend at the same time, and we would still be maximizing that facility. So we have some tools at our disposal to be able to address increases and decreases in student population.
Yeah, but when you say that the enrollment forecast is going to go back during that time period, and that trustee area 7 over here, he may never get.
We're not talking specifically at Area 7. The 60, that's the overall district. That's not one area.
That's his area. And so his area might not ever even have another high school because of a declining enrollment.
The idea of talking about the next high school in Rancho Cordova versus the first high school, I'm not in a place to be able to have that conversation.
Okay, then, okay, I could ask this question later because the question I had later, where do you project we're going to lose 3,000 or 4,000 students in that time period?
Everywhere else
that's
it's
a
not
question.
growing. There was a map. There's a map that shows the growth areas. Everywhere else that's not growing is potentially declining enrollment. So both are happening at the same time. We talked about it last time.
But the area, okay, in my area, Area 1, trustee Area 1, you have birth cohort data sets who are growing because as a result of the influx of people who are younger, they could afford these new homes.
All of that information is factored into our projections.
Yes,
and all they are is the best information we have today.
I know
the birth rates will change, immigration patterns will change.
Right.
The rate at which housing gets built will change.
Right.
This is the best information we have based on what we know right now.
Well,
That's the only thing you can do. There's no way to know exactly how many people are going to be where. It's impossible.
affordability of homes, that's a big factor that you need to look at.
Mr. Forshina, I just want to get back
Thank
to
you.
your original question.
Two quick things. One, since the issue I put on the table is a really important one to Rancho Cordova folks, I would just request that we have another meeting with them to alleviate concerns, because there is that concern. And then thinking about my notebook that says things I shouldn't say.
Wow, that too.
And thinking about the fact that if Susie was here, she would not be happy with me with the
Make her
comment
proud.
I'm going to make, because the comment is that since I did very well in kindergarten and was able to be promoted many years ago, I can count. And I don't have 4 votes to push anything further, so my comments are over.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Perez, were you complete with your questions? Oh, yeah. Anything new in addition to what you said last year? We don't need to repeat.
Okay, I'm going to start back over here on that 5.2, can you get it?
This is the overview.
That's the presentation, correct?
The presentation.
Okay.
So that's what we have here this evening.
Okay. Well, when I looked at the 5.2 enrollment, like I said, I looked at that, and the enrollment projections and the graph do not jive with the numbers. And if you had it, look at it, the green, which represents the 10-year projected enrollment for 2033-34, it's the way it's displayed here, it's even across. And you mentioned above, the paragraph above, that we will lose 62, we will go back to 62,000 students in 2033.
You're looking at different grade levels in that one, right?
Yes, but if you look at every grade level, it's the same pattern.
No, it's not.
So, yes, it is. And so elementary is almost the same as 2023, 24. Middle school is about the same for 23, 24. So
23 or
the way
30?
that's projection, I think it should be less. The green should be less. That's why I just want to point that out to you.
Thank you.
But, okay. And so, like I said, I understand you get birth cohort data. I've worked with birth cohort data through the state of California doing maternal child health reports for the state and the feds. And so that's an issue that low-income people have more births than middle-class, higher-income people. So I forecast that in Area 3, Valley High School, in Area 1, and you're seeing that right now, we're having low-income housing units being pushed in that area. And so as a result of that, you're going to have more children, students, but that does not been reflected in this report. I'm saying it again.
It is factored in.
No, it is not.
That is your opinion.
Well, we have the overuse in Area 3 in Valley High School, trustee area, and Area 1, my area. We have overabundance of relocatable classrooms, and that shouldn't happen as a result of the student forecast. That's a result of poor planning that happened prior to you coming on board. And I don't see the master plan talking about removing those and putting new buildings 2 stories high, because the land, there's so much land you could have, and then we have to start pre-K and transitional, and yet that's the other problem that we need to face. I don't feel comfortable that we are adhering to those needs of those sites within Valley High School and Florin High School.
Okay, then you didn't look close enough, because replacement of portables is in the detail for every school site where it's at.
So there's no space. There's no space in those things. If you put those things, you get rid of children's playgrounds.
Not necessarily.
Yes, you do.
No, we would run
You
afoul
go
of
to those
state laws
sites.
if we did
They're
that. We're obviously not going to do
And
that.
then not only that, you're going to have more traffic congestion.
Those are
Mr.
Mr.
Students
Perez.
are already there.
Mr. Perez, the portables is absolutely addressed in the plan.
And again,
The other piece we have is we do have year-round scheduling. That is another tool that we have with regards to needing additional space for students. So we have
most Area
multiple.
1 and Area 3 are year-round already.
That's
And,
not true.
if anything, they should go longer periods of school for learning loss and achievement gap. If anything, okay, here we go. Like I said last time, I looked through the equity lens, and I don't think there's parity within these funding areas. I have not seen a report for prior bond issue and how successful we were with that money and by geographic trustee areas. And there's a committee that's supposed to monitor the spendings and all that, but yet I have not seen that addressed within the present master plan or the last master plan. And there's no history of that, presenting that to our new board members of what we have done.
We did a full
prior-
presentation last summer. If you remember, the students came here and helped us do the presentation.
Yes.
So that was done, and it's
But
been done
it's
multiple
not-
times.
It's not written again in this report.
That's 'cause
This
it's-
is not a report, this is a
The master
plan
plan.
moving forward.
Master
A
plan.
plan
History.
moving forward, not a
Lacking
report.
history. It's lacking history.
That's not what it should be including.
Well, you know, like, the history,
Okay,
is
Mr.
there a
Pettis,
history of the budget?
Mr.
There's no
Pettis,
budget, it's a history
Mr.
of what we spent last time.
Mr. Pettis.
Not what this
So
report is.
far, you've added your comments.
No,
but
I'm not finished.
Well, can you ask a question that can be answered?
Okay. How much is it going to cost the district for the land acquisition?
Depends on the land and depends on when we buy it.
And you have any idea
There's no way to predict that.
as of today's cost? No idea, no projections
For what piece of land are we talking about?
for these new schools.
It's
In
generally
Region
in the
7
millions of dollars.
and Miwok.
You answered.
Yeah.
It said it's generally in the millions of dollars.
All right, Mr.
And
Pettis.
again, I don't feel that we have evaluated or did adequate assessments in these geographical areas of need.
Okay,
And
Mr.
prioritize.
Like to
Did
call the
everybody-
And
question.
what is your criteria of prioritizing
Call the
areas?
question.
What is the criteria?
Mr. Pettis,
What?
this has been thoroughly vetted with all kinds of
I'm asking what's
experts
the
in the
criteria
field
of
providing the
prioritizing?
information. Your opinion is not
You know?
the expertise.
Do you
okay?
know?
So we need you to ask,
Do you know
ask
the
an actual
criteria?
question.
Do you know the criteria of prioritizing these projects?
Yes, it was explained when they went through the example
page?
of the school sites. Priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. It was
Mr.
explained
Perez.
last time, and you sat through it.
And Mr. Perez, the other piece with priorities is we'll be bringing that information to the board in different situations. Part of it will be related to when a school becomes eligible for state matching modernization dollars. It could,
Right.
but that,
Right. See?
and that information is in the master plan. When sites are eligible is in the master plan. It's
Right.
there. Other things we don't know is something like Prop 39 could come along again, like it did previously, that focused on air conditioning and HVAC and those kinds of opportunities, and we leveraged dollars when that opportunity came along. So the prioritization, that information's in the master plan, and the modernization eligibility is one of the main factors of that.
Okay, the issue I have
There's
also.
been a request to call the question, and I would
What?
still like to ask
What?
one question.
Wait,
I
what are you
have-
talking about?
Mr.
You cut me
Pettis.
off?
Yes, I'm
Why?
cutting you off because you had
Entitled to ask questions.
you had an opportunity at the last
I have-
meeting, and you are
So
asking
I have new
questions.
questions.
No. Okay, Ms. Coates, I just have one question.
Shit, why am I
in-
here then? I'll just leave.
Okay, thank
You
you.
don't want to hear me up?
Thank you. In regards to stadiums, I know that
Not censor me. You cannot censor me.
stadiums have been an issue, and currently we have one stadium shared between two. And it's a huge cost to create a new stadium at each high school. However, the stadiums that are, the high schools that are sharing, there is a practice stadium or a smaller stadium that soccer is played at or other sports are played on that, that smaller stadium. It has lights, it has a small amount of bleachers, and it has the turf. Has there been a cost analysis done to transition those smaller ones to a larger versus, creating an entirely new stadium? So has there been a cost analysis done?
Done any of that work? There has.
No.
There has
can
been
answer that.
some analysis. We're not prepared to talk about it tonight, but the team has explored many options
Okay.
to help ease the burden of those that are sharing or don't have the facility on their site.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. And like I
I have
said,
a
it
question.
has been requested to call the question, so I would like to ask for a motion to adopt the Elk Grove Unified School District Facilities Master Plan for 2025 to 2035.
So moved.
Roll call vote,
Second, Madam Chair?
roll call vote.
It's been moved by Mr. Vargas and seconded by Ms. Chávez Espinosa. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I do, I like the explanation, there's no
Thank you.
parity in this
No.
master plan.
We are in the middle of a vote,
Yeah.
so the motion carries. Thank you very much.
55, all right.
Okay, and you get to stay up, Ms. Coates. For item number 2, resolution ordering an election to authorize the issuance of school bonds, establishing specifications of the election order and requesting consolidation with any other elections occurring on November 5th, 2024.
All right. Well, nice to continue being here. Thank you for that. The facility master plan really sets the tone for the next discussion, which is we saw approximately a $2 billion total cost over the next 10 years. And a big part of that is how are we going to fund these projects and implement as we did very successfully with Measure M. And so tonight we're asking the board for consideration to put a measure on the November 5th, 2024 ballot. The measure seeks authorization of $542 million in bonds at legal rates. The purpose for this measure would be to repair, modernize, and construct classrooms, labs, and facilities, addressing overcrowding, and supporting college and career readiness in science, technology, engineering, math, arts, and skilled trades. It would include infrastructure improvements, roofs, plumbing, electrical, water safety, and security systems. And it would it would levy 3.4 cents per $100 of assessed value at 37 million approximately annually. This does come with citizens' oversight, annual audits, and all of the funds locally controlled. So it does have those measures. And if we were to move forward, it does require a 2/3 vote by the board. So a little bit more about what the projects would be and how these funds would be used. It's hard to read this font, so I will read and highlight much of this, but the key project areas will be over the next 3 to 4 slides with a comprehensive list that's really outlined in the full newly adopted facility master plan. So we have areas of modernization and renovation, infrastructure and safety, safety and security enhancement, facility expansion and improvement, and technology infrastructure is really what we're looking at on these slides. We want to continue to support the academic and career pathways to prepare students for the global economy. We also know that in priority 1, we'll need to continue the maintenance and the repairs on roofs, our HVAC systems, drainage, security, plumbing, and lighting systems. We have facility expansion. We've talked a lot about growth in various areas across the district, not just new construction of schools, but also new construction of programs in all of the areas, and this would be part of that. It also includes just kind of major highlights of the second slide around project list, health and safety renovations, so removing or mitigating any hazardous materials, upgrading fire alarm systems, including fire safety equipment and sprinklers, public announcement systems that are in our schools, special education facilities, making things more accessible, building, renovating, and equipping facilities to meet the unique needs of our special education students. That comes with accessibility improvements to be in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. We have new construction, as Mr. Hoffman already alluded to, that this is different than our Measure M. to construct new schools, classrooms, and support sites, including land acquisitions, furnishing, equipment, and technology to accommodate student population growth, and provide additional learning facilities, including career technical education facilities. And then just general improvements. There's a lot that is included in that facility master plan, but modernizing, renovating, and replacing portable classrooms with permanent ones would be part of this measure. If the board were to move forward this evening and give us direction to take the next steps, we would submit the resolution to the county. That is a requirement by August 9th. We have been talking quite a bit about the success of Measure M and facilities all through really the last 18 months as we've been going through the facility master plan and continue to do so, making sure the public really understands what this entails and what the impacts are. So that would be the public engagement and education program. And just some takeaways to to walk away with as we consider this. We've come, I think, twice now since we've been in this boardroom, and when we polled and reported on surveys, what Elk Grove residents really say is that maintaining the learning environment in schools is their top priority. And so we know that that's important to them, and this would go a long way in supporting that if we were able to put this on the measure and take it to the voters. And so with strong education where they understand what projects would likely be prioritized as a result of this, that would allow us to make substantial progress on the newly adopted master plan. And so what we would do is we would have a public education and information program along with outside of us. External campaign support would be important for the measure's success. And so the action needed would be tonight for the board to pass this again with a 2/3 vote. And if that were to happen, then this measure would be placed on the November 5th ballot. Any questions at this time?
Mr. Vargas, do we have any blue cards on this item?
We do. We have one blue card. And our speaker is Heidi.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Hoffman for his prompt responses to my concerns this week. I really appreciate that. And I also appreciate that you modified the presentation to indicate that you are indeed projecting to build the Area 7 middle school, high school. So my comment is in response to your FMP presentation and also in reference to this item. And as mentioned by Mr. Frasina, there's a lot of mixed reviews kind of in our area. The possibility of our area finally getting these schools in our community brings a lot of hope to community members, but it also brings doubt. Doubt that the reality of these schools is actually that they're going to be built within the promised timeline. I think that part of the doubt roots from the fact that just a few months ago, this same board was considering putting forth this general obligation bond without any mention of building these schools. After you sent out surveys and heard feedback that our area did not have high bond favorability toward the bond, the new schools were suddenly announced. As I mentioned, many felt hopeful and positive, but many still question how genuine your intention is to prioritize these schools. The slides don't give clear indication that our schools will be prioritized with the bond dollars. We would like to see language that you plan to complete these schools within 5 years. And I mean, even tonight in the presentation, it was mentioned that within 10 years, but originally the language is 5 to 6 years. So we wanted to be clear that this is 5 to 6 years, not 10 years, because that's been the problem for years, is that it's been pushed back and back and back. For instance, my daughter, when we moved here was in first grade, my oldest daughter, and we were promised that we would have the new schools by the time she went to middle school. She just graduated from PGHS, and here we are being told within 10 years again. You know, that's unacceptable to these families. So we just want you to be honest and that you're truly prioritizing these schools. And as a final note, I would like to point out that these schools would directly benefit Rancho Cordova families the most, but a lot of Rancho Marietta families have told me that they want these schools built too because they want to come to our schools. And I've also had families in Area 7 and the PGHS, or the Pleasant Grove region, tell me that they want the schools built because the overcrowding affects the whole region. You know, the traffic, the parking lots, the offloading, it affects all of them. So this is a priority not just to our neighborhood, but the whole region. So please consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is all the blue cards we have on this item.
Can I make one clarification? With regards to the 10 years is the overall master plan. So it's all the things that are going to happen in the master plan. Schools are going to come online throughout that period. Right now, the 5 to 6 year period on the middle high school, that's our best timeline for that. So we haven't said anything about pushing back that, but this overall plan is a 10-year window.
Thank you very much. Mr. Perez, we'll start with you with questions.
Question is, some point of information. Go back to 3.4.
Can you use the mic, please, so that your comments are recorded?
What do you say, 3.4 per 100 or what?
Oh, 3.4 cents per $100 assessed value.
Right. In actuality, according to the resolution, tax rate statement, it's going to be $34.94 per 100,000, right?
It's, if you translate it into 100,000, it's the same
Right.
amount. And we tested, when we polled,
So-
we tested both scenarios.
Have you
Same
did
number, it's the
analysis,
same
what's the
number.
average cost of a house in Elk Grove? How mu,
What is it?
no, it's much more than that. So anyway.
So this is Rich
it's
Malone
assessed
from
value.
Government Financial Services. He's part of our financial advisor. He's saying 370,000 is the average assessed value, which is different than the, like what you might find on Zillow.
Right, but what are they going to get, what are they going to get taxed on?
The assessed
The
value,
assessed-
Assessed value,
the lower value.
okay. But if anybody buys a new home in that area, and then their assessed value goes to the present value of 500,000, so they are going to end up paying approximately $175 per
Year.
year, correct?
I don't know your math off the top of our head, but
Yeah.
that's.
My estimate, I did an estimate, I don't have my calculator here. But see,
why
the issue I have, and I tried to bring this up earlier, and, you know, I'm for this bond, but yet, we haven't gone out there, and you said you're gonna go out there, explain a lot of things, but people are gonna have to realize, you know, we need this in our schools, in our facilities, but again, we need to press that we need parity, equity in these projects. That's what I want. Again, but yet, the issue here, it's not clear. It's kind of misleading. 3.4 cents per $100. How come you didn't put $34 in per 100,000? I'm wondering about.
Because
It's
the
the same-
law
it's the
is,
same
the law is
math.
very specific about
The
how you write
assessed
these.
valuation, okay. Because, you know, cost of food's going up, utilities are going up. You know, we're gonna have to work hard on this issue. The other thing I have, I won't even mention that. Good, next. Oh, I know what. Let me ask you this. Why didn't we consider Mello-Roos of going that route or doing the city tax?
It's a completely different animal. We have a Mello-Roos in place already.
Yes, in our new
Completely
development to
different.
pay for the schools.
In all of our, across the entire district.
What?
We're not having a Mello-Roos conversation right now. We can do that, but that's not what this
That's not
conversation.
on the
Some
agenda.
communities pay Mello-Roos taxes. Yes or no?
The whole school district does. We have one
Okay.
CFD.
The entire district.
You've been here for
Okay.
12 years. You've
Yes.
seen the reports multiple times.
Yes. So, like I mentioned before, prior to the new board members, I mentioned the city of Davis taxes their people and puts that money's back into the educational system. We never considered doing that also, working with our city council. I'm just thinking of other issues that we could fund this.
That's not,
If this-
that's not this topic.
Yeah.
And that is a parcel tax, is a completely different animal. So,
No, we have an issue regarding generating money for your facilities. You got
No,
to think
the
out of the
topic,
box.
the topic is this bond. It's
Yes.
not about ideas of how to find other funding.
Well, just
So, yeah.
brainstorming, can we brainstorm?
I appreciate that, but this is not the time to do that.
Oh.
So,
Brainstorming violates Brown Act.
What?
You can't brainstorm. It violates
Okay,
Brown Act.
we're discussing. I was trying to generate a discussion.
On the item on the
Conversation.
agenda.
any further?
Alternate solutions.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Fortuna?
Let's vote.
Ms. Chaitis Espinosa, any questions?
This is an incredibly positive step forward. For those of you who saw the latest construction report attached to this agenda, the amount of work that has been accomplished with Measure M is outstanding and a source of pride for everybody associated with this district. I'm so grateful the voters gave us that opportunity to deliver what we've delivered with Measure M. And even though it's never going to be enough to fund the full need, right? $2 billion in need, and we're asking for a little more than a quarter of that. We're going to deliver some great things for our students, and I really hope we're able to bring this to fruition for our students. So I'm very enthusiastic and plan to support.
Mr. Vargas?
Nothing to add.
Ms. Albiani?
I echo Ms. Chaitis Espinosa.
Mr. Yang?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that presentation. Some verifications, or clarification, I should say. So this, what?
It's Mr. Yang's turn.
The 10-year master plan, it's roughly budget to $2 billion, right? So this bond is roughly a little bit over $500 million. So let's just say if this bond, doesn't pass, do we have a backup plan?
I think it's a fair question to ask. I think it's a fair question. I think Ms. Charitas Espinosa mentioned earlier that in order to, the state has a school-wide facilities bond.
Sure, I heard that too, yeah.
That will be propositioned to this fall as well. And for us to be eligible to receive those funds, one, we need to show that we have site capacity studies and a board-approved facilities master plan, so thank you for that. And then secondly, we have to show that we can pass our own local general obligation bond or make that attempt. And so tonight is an important step in that direction. Should it not pass, the team has been creative. All of the new schools that we've built and all of the projects that we've been able to do, even outside before Measure M came into existence, I think has been an incredible amount of work. And so the team is smart and resourceful and willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that the students are in the best learning environments possible.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my thought is Elk Grove Unified School District is the largest school district in Northern California. And, I certainly see a lot of new community built and being built. And that means we are probably going to get more residents in our school district. And that means we're probably going to have more kids and more students. And, seeing this plan, to me, it's a great thing. I mean, we are invest heavily into our school district that is much needed as far as what we hear from our constituents and what we see and heard, that we have a lot of schools with overcrowded classroom and so forth. And I fully support the bond. So thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just, we've, as Ms. Chavez Espinosa mentioned, we've had many reports and seen the success of Measure M, and the community, the research that has gone out already, preliminary, shows that the community is committed to providing top-level classroom environment and learning environments for our students. So, I think that in order to continue to provide quality education for our students, that we're going to need the community to let us know that they're ready to commit to that. And so I'm hoping that they're ready to commit. So with that, I would like to call for a motion to adopt resolution number 7, ordering an election for the voters of the district to decide whether to authorize the issuance of general obligation bonds on November 5th, 2024.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Yang and seconded by Mr. Vargas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, one nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And with that, I would like to adjourn this meeting at 7:20 p.m. Thank you for everybody that was here in attendance.